Don Jr.'s back in his office. Same pile of work. That green folder has not moved, kids. There's none of it. That same, see that little curl in that piece of paper there? Same shit. Weeks and weeks and weeks and weeks we have been seeing this, right? You guys remember, you've seen this. Guys, I've shown this. So, luckily, Don Jr., I mean, this is a big one, 59 rumbles. You can't beat this video. This is killing it. Look at what's happening in Cuba right now, guys. He actually is putting guys in his descriptives. People are protesting against the communist government and holding American flags while they do. Happens a lot, by the way. It's funny that they're doing that now when Biden is taking over and not when your dad was was president. It's funny. That's kind of weird. That is filed. Okay, KL Link. I trade these Cubans for some of our socialist morons. Okay, so this is, and again, I have my AirPods in. It's something we share, obviously. And I have them in because I'm listening to a clip that I'm responding to. He has them in because he's stupid, I think is the actual reasoning here. Yeah, they are protesting not getting vaccines, precisely. I have to say, the irony is palpable. Okay, let's see if he recognizes that, though. Here we go.
Communism will...
Oh, God. Hold on. This is loud. Simmer. And back up, because I, like, obviously.
Communism...
Guys, right out of the gate. Guys.
Will always lead to misery.
Really, dude? What? Okay, first of all, he's looking up here. Secondly, there was a note over here. Guys, communism will always lead to misery. Is he just putting, like, giant words across the top? Oh, God.
Look no further than what's going on in Cuba right now. Now, there's a big difference between the Biden administration and reality, right? The Biden administration...
What do you... again, he's got his notes up here.
Well, there's protests because of a shortage of COVID-19 vaccines, right?
Uh-huh.
They're chanting, quote, down with the dictatorship and we want liberty. You think that has to do with the COVID-19 vaccine, or you think maybe it's a little deeper than that? I understand the...
Well, it might be that the number of people that are actually out in the streets because of the COVID vaccine the shortages have brought everybody out, and they feel safer airing all of their grievances.
Democrats have been selling us for a long time that the Cuban people are thrilled with their situation.
Yeah, nobody has sold that idea. I mean, that's why Obama opened up our relations with Cuba, so that hoping that that would eventually lead to people, you know, getting more freedom instead of isolating them. And your dad shut that shit down.
Because they have free healthcare, doesn't seem to be working out all that well, and free education. What could they possibly be complaining about?
And by the way, the free part, I guess, all right.
This is what happens in communism. And I know. I get it.
You know, you are a communist. I know. You've been growing your dictator beard for a long time, and it's not working.
Guys, I'm the son of a billionaire from Manhattan, but I
Oh my God. Trump isn't your real dad?
understand communism because my mother escaped from it. My mother escaped from communist Czechoslovakia. When my grandparents...
Czechoslovakia?
came to this country and they saw the freedoms and the liberty that we had here, they couldn't believe it. They couldn't believe it after living in that tyrannical regime for so long under communism.
Well, sure they could believe it. That's why they came here.
So much so that they brought me to communist Czechoslovakia as a 5-year-old, and every summer after that for 2 months, so I could see it with my own eyes. So I could experience the difference between what we have in America and what they had over there in communist.
Oh, so they had businesses over there, and they still had, you know, workers and people working for them. They just did it out of the States and kind of flew over for business reasons. So,
Czechoslovakia. I've waited in those bread lines. I've seen what that system does to good, intelligent, hardworking people and how it
and imagine what it did to you.
breaks them. We're trying to bring...
Yeah, Czech. For those of you who don't know, Czechoslovakia is it's right next to Slovenia, and it's where everybody there makes all the Chex Mix in the world.
Bring it here. We're trying to bring it here. I'd love to see all of these Gen Z and millennial kids, I'd love to see them live in those regimes, minus their iPads and their iPhones and their $7 Starbucks. I'd like to see them survive that for a second. I would trade those Cuban protesters for most of that Portland rioting crowd any day of the week, because they get it. They're waving,
which would be a dictatorship kind of a thing to do. I mean, if you're going to trade humans for humans.
American flags in Cuba. Because it's a symbol of liberty, because it's a symbol of freedom. Now,
and they're doing it now. Interesting. When Biden's president. They feel safe to do it when Biden's president. It's almost like during the Obama administration, when we normalized relationships with Cuba, those people felt like they were finally getting a shot. Then they didn't do any of that shit during your dad's time in office. And now that Biden's in office, they feel like they might get the cover they need from the U.S. government again, because we had a temporary brush with a dictatorship, and they were like, oh shit, it's happening in America. We'll never get help. And now Biden is in. It's fascinating.
Not because it's a symbol of white oppression. It's a symbol of white supremacy and hate. No, they're flying it because it stands for freedom, because it stands for liberty. Same thing.
And because they feel safe now that Joe Biden is president.
18 months ago, when the Hong Kong protesters were waving American flags, because that's what it actually stands for. We have to start recognizing that here.
What are you reading? What this video is 7 minutes long. It's double what he normally does. So we understand he's going to drift if he doesn't have some kind of note in front of him. Obviously, that happens, right? It runs in the family. He'll have what they call an Eric, and so he's got to have stuff up there. Is there just a TV on?
Again, the Biden administration will sell.
See what I mean?
You that it's about COVID-19 vaccines, but you don't chant down with the dictatorship because of a lack of COVID vaccines. That's not what happens. Okay?
Okay.
Okay. That they're selling you this shows you how out of touch with reality
Okay.
they are. But the Democrats, the mainstream media, they've been in lockstep with communism. They've been pushing it on us for years now. They don't want to talk about how it's not really such a great system. All these journalists,
what are you talking? What the hell is he? Honest to God, I'm losing his script right now. Can I have his notes? What, Don? Can you do me a favor next time? Next time you shoot one of these piece of shit videos, can you reverse the camera and just show over your shoulder so the rest of us can read what the fuck you're looking at, so we can kind of draw and try to figure out what you're rambling about?
Well, we don't really know what's going on right now. Like, it's Cuba, guys. It's not Afghanistan. Get on a plane. It's literally 90 miles off the coast of Florida. You can see for yourself, but you don't want to report on what's actually going on. Right?
Yeah, they probably don't. Let's see. Let's see. Where can we even look? Let's see. I doubt anybody's got any stories about it. Let's see. Cuban. I mean, I'm going to have to dig down pretty deep. Nobody's even covering this. I mean... I mean, it's all, I mean, there is some news, but it's all, just, you know, clearly, they're in support of this. Let's see, view all top stories. Live updates, Cuba cracks down on protests, concerns grow over reports of missing detainees. Why has Cuba exploded in protests? Goes beyond the U.S. embargo and the pandemic. Cuba protesters feel emboldened despite crackdown. People in Orlando showed support for protesting the hip-hop song that's driving Cuba's unprecedented protests. Protests against Cuban regime had part of the Palmetto blocked for about an hour. Cuban protesters spill into West Tampa streets. Patria y Vida, the dissident rappers helping drive Cuba's protests. Protesters asking for the U.S. intervention in Cuba. Stop Palmetto Expressway. Okay, AOC silent as DSA appears to back Cuba's communist regime. DSA? Who's DSA? The Democrat Socialists of America. Why would she? All right. The White House finally paying attention. Cuba's protest forced Biden's hand. Biden promised to reverse the failed Trump policies on Cuba. He didn't expect to have to figure out how so quickly. Asked in March whether President Joe Biden intended to lift his predecessor's last-minute designation of Cuba as a state-sponsored terrorism. White House Press Secretary Jen Psaki told reporters a Cuba policy shift is not currently among President Biden's top priorities. She gave an almost identical response a month later when pressed for reaction to Raul Castro stepping down as head of Cuba's Communist Party. 6 months in, that refrain makes one thing clear. Amid burgeoning foreign crises from Nicaragua to Afghanistan, Biden's team wasn't ready to turn its attention to Cuba. Right. This is actually occurring live. Therefore, it will require some actual strategy. But over the weekend, the communist-run nation, island nation, became an unavoidable subject. Thousands of Cubans took to the streets on Sunday to protest food and medicine shortages amid a worsening economic crisis, while calling for an end to the 62-year-old dictatorship, and while Biden voiced support for the protesters, describing the protests as a clarion call for freedom. Much of his policy towards Cuba remains a mystery because they're planning something. They're going to come out. There you go. We stand with Cuban people and their clarion call for freedom and relief from the tragic grip of the pandemic and from decades of repression and economic suffering to which they have been subjected by Cuba's authoritarian regime. The Cuban people are bravely asserting fundamental and universal rights. Those rights, including the right of peaceful protest and the right to freely determine their own future, must be respected. The United States calls on the Cuban regime to hear their people and serve their needs at this vital moment rather than enriching themselves. So yeah, American president calls for American-level freedoms in Cuba. Yeah.
Right? All these people that love communism so much are really silent. You know, Bernie Sanders, Biden's been pretty silent.
Pretty silent? I mean, besides July 12th was a long time ago, so.
Half of the Obama administration's been pretty silent.
Half of the Obama administration, first of all, the Obama administration is the one who normalized relations with Cuba so that people could start traveling freely to and from Cuba and the United States, and eventually, either come here or bring some of our freedoms back with them, was the theory.
Again, they spin that it's about something else, okay? They spin that it's about something totally unrelated, or at least try to create it. They say, well, you know, it's about COVID-19 and the lack thereof, and maybe the
people are protesting the lack of COVID-19.
Lack of basic necessities for life. Really? You think it's about COVID-19 when you're starving? You think they care all that much? Cubans down there are waving the American flags while Americans with actual liberty, with actual freedom, call it a symbol of hate. They want to burn it and spit on it.
Well, the fact that they can actually was what makes it stronger. I mean, the American flag gains its strength from the fact that we as citizens can deride it or protest it or not salute it, along with the people who do want to salute it and do support it and do recognize it as a symbol of freedom. See, that's kind of what makes it a symbol of freedom. See the difference? They would love to live in a country where they could spit on their flag if they were disenchanted with it and not go to jail.
They're chanting, "Queremos libertad," we want freedom. Woke Americans are telling us that they want COVID vaccines.
Then I guess you're saying that Biden's not woke. Okay. Just for, you know.
Is anyone that stupid? Right? The left they're really confused. Which one is it? Cuba provides free healthcare and education, so it must be wonderful. Cuba protesting the lack of...
Dude, what are you reading again? What the fuck is... What cribbed notes are up there? And now he's looking over here. Okay, so when I'm talking to you guys, I'm looking straight into the camera right in front of me so I can discuss this. And when I look at the video that I'm addressing, it's right about here. That's my eye line. That's what's going on, okay? And then occasionally I will look over here because that's where the chat is, right? It's fairly simple. And occasionally, also, an even lesser occasion, if I'm looking for an article to bring up to show you, I do it on this monitor over here, and then I drag it across over there. That's basically my life in eye lines when I do this show. He's just doing this on his fucking phone. Yes, and yes, he's high as shit.
Of medical care right now. Which one is it, guys? You can't have it both ways. I get that you'll do whatever you can to cover for Obama and for the Biden administration, and we understand the media is the marketing arm of the Democrat Party right now, but...
Well, then why are they covering this stuff and saying that there's a lot of complexity in that as well? Because, I mean, there's a shit ton of this... Let's see. Here's another one. Look at this. U.S. considering ways to help Cuban people after protests, State Department says. Sunday's protests in Cuba were the largest the communist country has seen since the 1990s. Cuba is facing food and power shortages. Oh, I thought it was just vaccines as it struggles. I mean, CNBC. Wait, CDNC is putting this out? Is that what they call CNBC? They have to, right? The Cuban government blames U.S. trade sanctions for the nation's troubles, while Washington says mismanagement by Havana is to blame. We are always considering options available to us that would allow us to support the Cuban people. State Department spokesperson Ned Price said. The State Department on Tuesday said the U.S. is considering an array of options to help the Cuban people after thousands of protesters filled the street in the island nation this week over frustrations with a crippled economy hit by food and power shortages. They didn't say anything about vaccines in that first thing. I don't know what kind of commie paper CNS isn't it CNBC communist NBC? That's what the other C stands for, right? We are always considering options available to us that would allow us to support the Cuban people, to support their humanitarian needs, which are indeed profound, and they are profound because of not anything the United States has done. That's a weird sentence. But from the actions and inactions, mismanagement, and corruption of the Cuban regime. Price said that in 2020, the U.S. exported more than $175 million worth of goods to Cuba, including food and medicine. He also condemned the Cuban government's forceful attempts to silence peaceful protesters and called on Havana to release anyone detained for peaceful protests. Thanks very much for the super chat. And by the way, thanks. Thumbs up, like, and subscribe. Don't forget, I totally blew off asking you guys to do that. So memberships, all that kind of stuff. Also, let's see, this Sunday, the 18th, I will be at Flappers in Burbank, and we're going to have a special guest. Maybe a couple of special guests. Hi, guy. Sunday's rare. So don't forget, like and subscribe. Thanks. Patreon.com/HalSparks. Also, PayPal.me/HalSparks. And also, this little thing. Point your phone at that, and then you can Venmo me. $6.66 moves us 1 micrometer closer to buying 666 Fifth Avenue. That's the goal. So please help out in any way you can. If you can't afford to, don't worry about it. But thank those who do. So when somebody gives a super chat and that kind of stuff, if I see them, it's nice that I can say it, but it's nice also that they know that you appreciate it because we're viewer supported. I'm like my own one-man NPR. It's a good time. All right. Sunday's rare protest, the largest the communist country has seen since the 90s. We read that part. President Diaz-Canel Bermudez said in a national address on Sunday, let's see, we will be battling in the streets, he added, adding that the United States is in part to blame for the widespread discontent in Cuba. On Monday, he appeared alongside members of his government, blamed U.S. trade sanctions for hampering Cuba's growth. Tired of mismanagement of the Cuban economy, tired of the lack of adequate food, and of course, an adequate response to the COVID-19 epidemic. That is what we are hearing and seeing in Cuba, and that is a reflection of the Cuban people, not the United States or any outside actor. But I mean, don't let them tell you that. I mean, I'm sure Don Jr. will tell us that America is somehow to blame. Oh, by the way,
which one is?
And yes, the Flapper Show is a live show. I will be in person at the club, but we will also be live streaming it. The special guest won't be live streamed because they didn't sign up for that.
I don't think it's either because you don't have a correlation between queremos libertad, we want liberty, and we want COVID vaccines. It doesn't.
Just because you're dumb and can't read doesn't mean the rest of us have to follow suit.
Work. It doesn't make sense. Okay? Twitter pushing protests across Cuba as the country faces shortage of COVID-19 vaccines and basic necessities. Oh.
Yeah, it says that. Oh, maybe I was wrong. Maybe I have reading comprehension skill. Oh, guys, we have to,
And, like, minor details, basic necessities. Guess what? They've lacked those basic necessities for a long time, despite what you've been told. They've lacked that for a really long time. Maybe there's more to it. Again,
yeah, there's also the 4 years where we were normalizing relationships with them and we were bringing more financial support to the country to help people get a taste of freedom, maybe decide that they don't want to be a communist country anymore in our neck of the woods. And your dad stopped that.
I get that I'm the son of a billionaire from Manhattan, but I've experienced
citation needed.
The stuff with myself. Okay, so
you've experienced the stuff with yourself.
Some Gen Z millennial regurgitating what they hear from a professor saying the great virtues of communism. Guys, it hasn't worked well anywhere yet. It's not going to work well here, despite that we're trying to push it here.
No, we're not. No, we're fucking not. No one is pushing communism here.
That you have billion-dollar and trillion-dollar institutions saying, hey, let's normalize it. Let's make it.
Wait, there's a $1 trillion communist organization? What? That's some shitty communism.
Okay, because that's exactly what's going on. And
guys, and we can't let it happen.
that should scare all of us. Okay? The fact that the administration can't talk about what's actually going on in Cuba, that they take our freedoms for granted here, should disgust
Who's they?
all of us. Don't let the narrative
Junior needs to cut up smaller lines.
and the nonsense dictate what's really going on. You're not that stupid. We're not that stupid. You can
Well, obviously. None of us are buying this, so we're clearly not that.
see it with your own eyes. You can hear what they're chanting. Okay? It's not rocket science, folks. It's nothing to do with COVID. These are people that want to be free. Okay? Our media, the Democrat Party, Joe Biden and his administration.
What the fuck did your dad do for 4 years? About Cuba? Where was the movement to free the Cuban people during the Trump years? I mean, let me see. Hold on. Trump on Cuba. Let's just say on that. Trump says Biden must stand up to Cuba and mocks Obama. This is from the Daily Mail, so we'll see what he says. Trump says Biden... Hold on, let me move this over. Trump says Biden must stand up to Cuba and mocks Obama for watching baseball with Castro while the regime... Hold on, shut this. Imprisoned, beat, and killed Cuban people as the White House dodges question of whether COVID sparked huge protests. And that's, Daily Mail is saying they don't want to answer whether they're only doing it because of COVID. Former President Donald Trump pressed Joe Biden to stand up to the Cuban government in a statement sent out Monday. He mocked the president for attending a baseball game with Raul Castro while he imprisoned, beat, and killed the Cuban people. Don't forget that Biden and the Democrats campaigned on reversing my very tough stance on Cuba and won, interestingly enough. During Obama's tenure, the Democrat tried to open relations with Cuba, a move that Trump reversed. Biden pledged during the 2020 campaign that he would revert to the Obama-era Cuban policy, but it hasn't acted on that pledge yet. Obviously, things are in flux. The White House dodged questions on Monday after a State Department official suggested Cuban protests were directly tied to COVID-19 concerns. Republicans hammered that interpretation with Senator Marco Rubio, saying the protests were inspired by 62 years of socialism, lies, tyranny, and misery. Yeah, but they've always been inspired by that. All the people who would come out. But the reason they're hitting the streets now and why it's hit a groundswell might be because they don't have vaccines, and the ones they do are the shitty Russian Sputnik ones, and they don't want to take them. In a statement, Trump pointed out that big demonstrations breaking out in Cuba and Miami in protest of the communist Cuban government. Although today there are 0 protesters in Cuba, you know what that means. I guess that they rounded them up and killed them. Don't forget that Biden and the Democrats campaign on reversing my very tough stance on Cuba. Remember that Obama attended baseball games with Castros while they imprisoned, beat, and killed the Cuban people. Trump said he stood with the Cuban people 100% and urged Biden to act. Joe Biden must stand up to the communist regime, or history will remember. The Cuban people deserve freedom and human rights. They are not afraid. Oh, that's the thing.
Big demonstrations breaking out in Cuba and Miami in protest. I noticed because it's Florida. They are not afraid.
And then he includes a picture of them having a meeting as they try to normalize conversations. By the way, do we want... Hold on. I just want to, if I may, case anybody thinks that, normalizing relationships with communist regimes, for example, is an awful thing to do. They went for a walk. They exchanged lovely letters. They fell in love. After you, huh? Was that good or what? Here we are, Ming. Hello. This is the two of us, you and me. Special friends.
till the end. You're my buddy, and we're such friends. Oh, yeah.
All right, just to clarify, in case anybody...
They got to stop playing cover for the communists and support the Cuban people and their wishes to be free. How?
Yeah, we do. That's why Biden was trying to, the Obama-Biden administration was trying to normalize relations, and that's why we're going back to that.
Is that so hard? Why is that so hard?
Why is that so?
Well, I don't know why it's hard, but your dad obviously thought it was too hard and didn't do shit.
I mean, I guess it's because you guys want control. I guess it's because the Democrats want control.
You're reading that? That thought has to be written down as a
Remember,
note.
they're waving an American flag because it's a symbol of freedom and liberty. Don't tell that to Colin Kaepernick. Obviously, he'll be down there trying to explain to the Cuban people why they should really embrace communism as he's getting, tens of millions of dollars from Nike to not even play football. They have free education. They have free healthcare. What are they complaining about, folks?
How did Colin Kaepernick get pulled into this? Because of flag stuff?
COVID-19 vaccine, or the lack thereof. Stop. Just stop. Watch what's going on. Don't let the clowns dictate. Call out the truth and make sure other people see this.
Call out the truth. Make sure other people say, share this video, because if you don't, we're only going to have 59 fucking rumbles on this thing.
Because again, the Cuban people, like us, are not in a fair fight. Okay? We're up against trillion-dollar institutions that are for the narrative on the other side, that are
You mean reality?
pushing as the marketing arm of the...
How do you get trillions of dollars operating on fake facts and fantasy? Yeah, because Fox never made that money.
Democrat Party, which seems to embrace and love communism a lot these days.
Based on what?
Okay?
Because of what? Infrastructure?
The system has failed with communism. Don't bring it here.
Nobody's bringing Cuban style. The closest thing we've had to a Cuban style dictatorship is your fucking dad.
Because some Marxist professor tells you to. Don't
Okay, all right.
just regurgitate it. Live it, experience it for yourself, and maybe you'll see. But that's not likely to happen. It's much easier to sit on your iPhone and drink a Starbucks and complain about how
Hey, how do you use your phone if you're sitting on it?
America sucks. It doesn't suck. It's the greatest country in the world, and that's why they're waving the flag, whether it's in Cuba or in Hong Kong. Take note, because they probably know a lot more than you do.
Yes, they know a lot more than you.